Hello and welcome to our YouTube channel where we work hard to improve your English. Today we are going to listen a story to improve our English because is the best way to learn and improve English. Title of the story, The Journey of the Silver Feather. Chapter 1, The Silver Feather. In the peaceful village of Prithvi, nestled between green hills and flowing rivers, stories of a mystical silver feather had been passed down for generations. It was said that the feather had the power to grant wishes, but only to those with pure hearts and noble intentions. Many had searched for it, but none had ever returned with the feather, or so the stories went. Arjun, a young man from the village, had grown up hearing these tales. He was a dreamer, always looking beyond the horizon, always seeking something more. Unlike others, Arjun believed in the truth of the legend. He had seen too much suffering in the world to doubt the existence of something so powerful. With a heart full of determination and a mind set on his goal, Arjun decided to find the silver feather. His journey began one quiet morning as he left the village with little more than a bag of supplies and the hope that the legends were true. The path led him deep into the forest, where the trees grew tall and thick, their branches weaving together to block out the sun. Days turned into weeks, as Arjun traveled farther than he had ever gone before, guided only by faith and the stories he had heard as a child. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Arjun stumbled upon a clearing he had never seen before. In the center stood an ancient tree, unlike any other in the forest. Its bark shimmered with a silver hue, and its leaves sparkled like stars in the fading light. Arjun's heart raced. He knew he had found the place. At the base of the tree, he noticed a small opening, just wide enough for a person to enter. Without hesitation, Arjun crawled through the opening and found himself descending a stone staircase. The air grew cooler as he ventured deeper underground, the walls of the tunnel illuminated by a soft silver light. The staircase led to a vast cavern, its ceiling high above, adorned with glowing crystals. In the center of the cavern, on a pedestal of stone, lay the silver feather. It was larger than Arjun had imagined, its surface smooth and glowing with a soft, ethereal light. As he approached, the feather seemed to hum with energy, filling the cavern with a sense of peace. Before Arjun could reach out to take the feather, an old man appeared before him, seemingly out of thin air. He was dressed in simple robes, his long white beard flowing down his chest, and his eyes twinkled with wisdom. This was the Wise One, the guardian of the silver feather. "Welcome, Arjun," the Wise One said, his voice calm and soothing. "You have traveled far to find this feather, but do you truly understand its power?" Arjun bowed respectfully. "I seek the feather to bring hope and prosperity to my village and to help those in need. I have seen much suffering and believe that the feather's power can change the world for the better." The Wise One nodded. "The feather does have great power, but it is not as you imagine. It does not grant wishes in the way you think. Instead, it reveals the true strength within your heart. Are you prepared to face the trials that come with this responsibility?" Arjun hesitated, but only for a moment. "Yes, I am ready." The Wise One smiled and handed the silver feather to Arjun. "Then go forth, and remember, it is not the feather that will change the world, but the choices you make." With the feather in hand, Arjun returned to the surface, the cavern closing behind him as if it had never been there. He knew that his journey had only just begun. Chapter 2. The village of Sundarvan. Arjun's first destination was the village of Sundarvan, a place once known for its fertile fields and abundant harvests. But when Arjun arrived, he found the village in despair. The rains had failed for 2 years in a row, and the fields were dry and cracked. The villagers were on the brink of giving up hope. Seeing their plight, Arjun approached the village elder, an old woman with kind eyes but a heavy heart. "I have come to help," Arjun said, holding up the silver feather. "With this, we can bring rain and life back to Sundarvan." The elder looked at the feather with a mix of awe and skepticism. "We have prayed for rain, we have done all we can, but the skies remain dry. How can a feather change what the gods have not?" Arjun smiled gently. "The feather will guide us, but it is our actions that will bring about change. Let us work together." That evening, under a darkening sky, Arjun held the silver feather high and wished for rain. The feather glowed brightly, and almost immediately clouds began to gather. Soon, a gentle rain began to fall, growing heavier as the night went on. The villagers rejoiced, dancing in the rain, their faces lifted to the sky in gratitude. But Arjun knew that the rain alone was not enough. He stayed in Sundarban, helping the villagers rebuild their irrigation systems, teaching them how to conserve water, and encouraging them to plant crops that could withstand drought. Over time, the village began to thrive once more, not just because of the rain, but because of the lessons they had learned. When it was time for Arjun to leave, the villagers gathered to thank him, but he simply smiled and said, "The power to change was within you all along. The feather only showed you the way." Chapter 3. The Storm in Varsha. From Sundarban, Arjun traveled to the town of Varsha, where he heard that a terrible storm was brewing. The people of Varsha were afraid, for the storm was said to be the worst in decades, with winds strong enough to tear down buildings and rains heavy enough to flood the streets. When Arjun arrived, he found the town in chaos. People were boarding up windows, securing roofs, and trying to prepare for the worst. But there was a deep fear in their hearts, and many believed that no matter what they did, the storm would destroy everything. Arjun knew that fear could paralyze, making even the strongest people feel helpless. He stood in the town square and called out to the people, holding the silver feather above his head. "The storm is coming, but we do not face it alone. Together, we have the strength to overcome any challenge. The feather is with us, but it is your courage that will see us through." The people gathered around, drawn by his words and the glow of the feather. Encouraged by Arjun's confidence, they began to work together, building barriers to divert the floodwaters, securing their homes, and ensuring that the elderly and children were safe. As the storm hit, the winds howled and the rain fell in torrents, but the people of Varsha stood firm. They fought against the elements, not with fear, but with determination. And though the storm raged through the night, when the dawn broke, the town still stood. The people had protected their homes, and though there was damage, no lives were lost. Exhausted but triumphant, the people of Varsha thanked Arjun for his help, but he simply shook his head and said, "The courage was within you all along. The feather only gave you the strength to believe in yourselves." Chapter 4. The Conflict in Shanti. Arjun's journey then led him to the city of Shanti, a place that was once known for its peace and harmony. But when Arjun arrived, he found the city divided by a bitter feud between two powerful families. The streets were filled with tension, and the people lived in fear of the violence that could erupt at any moment. The feud had begun generations ago, over a matter so trivial that no one even remembered what it was. Yet the hatred had been passed down, growing stronger with each new generation. The city was on the brink of war, and no one knew how to stop it. Arjun knew that the silver feather could not simply erase years of hatred. Instead, he approached the leaders of both families and invited them to a meeting. With the feather in hand, he told them the story of his journey, of the trials he had faced, and of the lessons he had learned. "You have the power to end this conflict," Arjun said, "but it will take more than words. It will take courage, wisdom, and above all, love. The feather can guide you, but the choice is yours." The leaders listened, their hearts moved by Arjun's words. For the first time in years, they looked at each other not with anger, but with the recognition that they were all part of the same community. Slowly, they began to talk, to share their grievances, and to find common ground. Over the following weeks, the families worked together to mend the rift that had divided the city for so long. They organized feasts, rebuilt damaged homes, and helped those in need, regardless of which side they had been on. The city of Shanti began to heal, not through magic, but through the power of forgiveness. When Arjun finally left, the people of Shanti thanked him for bringing peace to their city. But he simply smiled and said, "The wisdom was within you all along. The feather only helped you find it." Chapter 5. The Return to Prithvi. Years passed as Arjun continued his journey, helping those in need, spreading the values of love, courage, and wisdom wherever he went. But as time went on, he began to feel the weight of his years. The silver feather had guided him on a path that had changed not only the lives of others, but also his own. He had seen the world and all its challenges, but he had also seen the beauty of humanity, the strength, kindness, and resilience that lay within every person. Now, the time had come for Arjun to return home. As Arjun approached the village of Prithvi, he felt a deep sense of peace. The hills were just as green, the rivers just as clear, but there was something different about the village. The stories of his journey had reached Prithvi long before he did. The villagers had heard of the man who carried the silver feather, who had brought rain to drought-stricken lands, protected towns from storms, and healed the wounds of a city torn apart by conflict. To them, Arjun was a hero, a legend. But Arjun did not see himself as a hero. He had only done what he believed was right. The true power had always been within the people he had met along the way. The feather had only shown them what they were capable of. One evening, as the sun set behind the hills, Arjun walked to the ancient tree where he had first found the silver feather. The tree was as magnificent as ever, its silver bark glowing softly in the twilight. Arjun knew that his journey had come full circle. He knelt at the base of the tree and gently placed the feather on the ground. As he did, the earth beneath the tree shifted and the feather was slowly drawn into the roots, disappearing from sight. The silver feather had returned to its resting place, waiting for the next person with a pure heart and noble intentions to find it. Arjun stood up, feeling a sense of closure. He had fulfilled his purpose, and now it was time to pass on the wisdom he had gained. In the years that followed, Arjun became a teacher, sharing the lessons of his journey with the people of Prithvi and beyond. He taught them that the greatest power in the world was not magic or wealth, but the strength of the human spirit, the courage to face challenges, the wisdom to make the right choices, and the love to bring people together. As the seasons changed, the village of Prithvi flourished, not because of the silver feather, but because of the values that Arjun had instilled in its people. The legend of the silver feather lived on, but now it was more than just a story. It was a reminder that true power comes from within, and that everyone has the ability to make the world a better place. And so, the silver feather remained hidden, waiting patiently for the next dreamer, the next seeker, to continue the legacy. But the real legacy was not in the feather itself, but in the hearts and minds of those who believed in its message. A message of hope, courage, and love. Arjun lived the rest of his days in peace, content in the knowledge that he had made a difference. When he finally passed away, the village honored him not as a legend, but as a man who had shown them the way to a better life. And though the silver feather was lost to the ages, its spirit lived on in the people of Prithvi, and in the stories they told their children, generation after generation. The end of one journey marked the beginning of another, for there would always be those who sought the silver feather, those who believed in the power of the human heart, and those who understood that true magic lies not in objects, but in the choices we make every day.